Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. Well folks, we have another massive breaking bombshell. I love to use Nancy Pelosi's infamous quote in relation to Donald Trump. She claims that when it comes to Donald Trump and the Trump administration, all roads lead to Russia, all roads lead to Putin. An absolutely ridiculous claim. But folks, when it comes to Hunter Biden and his illegal influence peddling scheme, all roads lead to Joe Biden, the big guy. And that right there, folks, has been the mystery since the start. Joe Biden's involvement. Is Joe Biden the big guy? Tony Bobulinski seems to certainly believe that Joe is in fact the big guy, going as far to say that 1,000% Joe Biden is the big guy.
In that email, there's a statement where they go through the equity. Jim Biden's referenced as 10%, doesn't say Biden, it says Jim. And then it has 10% for the big guy held by H. I 1,000% sit here and know that the big guy is referencing Joe Biden. That's crystal clear to me.
And now we have some more confirming evidence. Another Hunter Biden business associate referring to, quote, the big guy in a second message found during the panic about the laptop hard drive leaks ahead of the 2020 presidential election. And we also have another text message from Mr. James Gillard during the same moment claiming, quote, don't mention Joe being involved. The evidence is starting to stack up, folks. Joe Biden clearly lied. We have the 2018 leaked voicemail where Joe Biden tells his son Hunter, I think you're in the clear, about this whole China thing. He then later claimed he had absolutely no involvement or knowledge of his son Hunter Biden's business dealings in China, even though he took his son Hunter Biden to China with him during an official trip to China as vice president, and while in China having dinner with Joe Biden's Chinese business associates. It's now coming up that Joe Biden has actually met with Hunter Biden's business associates dozens of times. This whole thing continues to expand. All roads seem to lead to Joe Biden's office. I mean, not exactly a surprise. It's really the only thing Hunter Biden had going for him. How else would he be making millions upon millions of dollars? But folks, to steal another quote from these corrupt Democrats, their favorite line in reference to Donald Trump and his campaign, quote, the walls are closing in on him. This time, it seems as though it's actually accurate, except the walls are closing in on Joe Biden. This might even lead to a possible impeachment. Let me show you guys exactly what's going on here. Things are getting real serious with this Hunter Biden probe. It's even possible that Hunter Biden is facing some criminal charges coming up in the next couple of months or years. We've got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. Alright friends, so take a look at this. Of course from none other than the Daily Mail. Hunter Biden associate referred to the big guy in second message during panic about laptop hard drive leaks ahead of 2020 presidential election. A business associate of Hunter Biden referred in a text message to, quote, the big guy the second time the reference was made, increasing suspicion that the nickname refers to Joe Biden. James Gillard, I think I called him James Gillard a couple times, but anyways, close enough, a British businessman in May of 2017, had emailed his associates, including Hunter, to formalize how they would divide the spoils from their deal with China's largest private energy company. Gillard wrote that the proceeds would be split, with 20% each to 4 partners, including JG assumed to be himself and H assumed to be Hunter. Cryptically, the remaining 20% would be divided, with 10% to Jim, likely Hunter's uncle Jim Biden, and 10% held by H by Hunter for, quote, the big guy. If the big guy is indeed Joe Biden, it would contradict his insistence that he was not involved in his son Hunter Biden's business dealings. The president has long rubbished any suggestion of financial impropriety. On Wednesday, a second reference by Gillard to, quote, the big guy emerged. Gillard, in October of 2020, when the news about Hunter Biden's laptop was first reported, discussed whether the revelations about Hunter's businesses would harm his father's presidential campaign. If they lose, honestly, I don't think that the big guy really cares about that, because he'll be too busy focusing on all the other S that he is doing, wrote Gillard in a text message obtained by a Republican source and passed on to the New York Post. I think we have a whole lot of evidence at this point, folks. Tony Bobulinski claiming 1,000% that Joe is the big guy, and now we have James Gillard claiming if they lose, obviously if they lose the presidential election, the big guy, who is clearly then presidential candidate Joe Biden, won't care because he'll be too busy focusing on whatever stuff he's doing. When your evidence isn't 100% definitive, when you have evidence that starts to pile up all pointing in one direction, it starts to become more definitive. And this is no longer circumstantial evidence, folks, especially because because we also have this text message right over here from, once again, none other than Mr. James Gilliar, who seems to be at the center of all of this stuff, constantly referring to Hunter, Jim, and the big guy. The only person who needs his identity concealed in all of this stuff is Joe Biden, because he's a government official, or he was a government official during the time a lot of this stuff was happening. It's the only possible logical conclusion that the big guy is in fact Joe Biden. Joe Biden was getting 10% kickbacks on deals that he was involved in and enabling through his government influence, making millions upon millions of dollars for himself, his brother, his son, and their business associates, James Gilliar, Tony Bobulinski, and others. It's time to have a seriously honest conversation about this stuff, folks. The investigation into Hunter Biden is seriously ramping up. We're seeing a whole lot of reports claiming that there's currently a criminal investigation that could lead to charges involving Hunter Biden. And the question is, will that be connected to Joe? At this point, folks, I am totally convinced there is no other reason why he would be lying the way that he is. There is no other reason why they would be trying to protect the big guy's identity. Of course, we have this Fox News report that I mentioned earlier.
The identity of the big guy has been the subject of much speculation as part of the ongoing grand jury probe into Hunter Biden's dealings. Now, according to the New York Post, one of Hunter's business partners, named James Gilliar, appears to have referred to Joe Biden as the big guy in a message on the same day the Post broke the news of the infamous laptop left behind by the president's son. Now, this comes as a Fox News digital review shows at least 14 of Hunter Biden's business associates met with then Vice President Biden, ranging from Mexican billionaires to a former Colombian president to Ukrainian and Russian energy executives.
Joe Biden was in fact involved, and if it can be proven that Joe Biden is in fact the big guy, or even if a grand jury decides so, that the evidence is compelling enough, Joe Biden must be held to account. He must be impeached. And what we're talking about here is not these two phony impeachment trials against Donald Trump, where there was absolutely no evidence whatsoever, nothing but a political motive. We're talking about legitimate crimes of corruption, an influence peddling scheme directly involving the White House during Joe Biden's term as vice president. That is an impeachable offense. Democrats are always going on and on about how Republicans were spineless and didn't do the right thing to vote to impeach Donald Trump. But if 10 Democrats don't vote to impeach Joe Biden in a scenario where Joe Biden's involvement in this whole scheme has been proven, well, then they will be the absolute biggest hypocrites on the planet. Honestly, at this point, folks, the way they're trying to throw Joe Biden under a bus, I think this whole thing is calculated. I think it might be coming out at just the perfect moment, just the perfect time. This might be a way for the Democrats to force their hand and get this guy out of office. I think charges at least connected to Hunter Biden are very much within the works. I mean, of course, we have to take it all with a grain of salt. Hillary Clinton should have been charged a long time ago. Now that Biden's probably the same thing. But one thing I know for sure, charges or not, the crimes of the Clinton crime family and the Biden crime family are clear as day regardless of the charges. And now with mounting evidence that Joe Biden is in fact the big guy, in my mind it's undeniable. And we're talking about two of the biggest political scandals of my lifetime, two of the biggest corruption scandals I've ever seen. Once again, to take another Democrat talking point, it's bigger than Watergate, more serious than Watergate. I think that Hillary Clinton's Russiagate treasonous crime and the Biden crime family's treasonous influence peddling corruption scheme are two of the biggest corruption scandals in American history. And at this point, again, at least in my mind, they are both undeniable. Hillary Clinton and her campaign were behind the Russiagate hoax, and Hunter Biden, Joe Biden, and Jim Biden were selling out American interest to foreign adversaries to enrich themselves to the tune of millions upon millions of dollars. Folks, just look at Joe Biden's tax returns. The guy made like $16 million the year before he was elected. How on earth is Joe Biden making $16 million? There's only one answer, and that answer is the big guy. That's what I got for you guys, though. Thanks for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe if you want to. I'm gonna get back to work, and I'll see you on the next one.